It's really nice being back with you all. This is my 21st visit to Unity of Albany. However, I haven't been here for 4 years. Yeah, the first time was 1990. I keep records of all the places that I go and visit, and this is that's why I know it's the 21st. I want to recognize a few people before I get into sharing the message for today. First of all, this couple right here, and we're going to acknowledge them a little bit later, Rob and Julie. I married these two people 49 years ago. At the end of the service, instead of a final benediction, we're going to do just a little benediction over them, if that's okay, and you all can share in that benediction, okay? After all these years, right? In a loft in Soho, right? In New York City. A couple more people I'd like to recognize is, first of all, my good friend, Reverend Dr. Paul McLean, who is goes with me a lot of places. He's a part of the seminary that we work with in New York City, and very, very active, very long-term student of A Course in Miracles. And where is Mark? Mark. Oh, okay. Dr. Mark Rye, professor of psychology from Skidmore College, is here, also a very good friend. And there's an interesting thing about Mark and Paul. Yesterday was both of their birthday. Paul was 75 yesterday, and well, I know how it is, but let's say younger. He's a young guy. They're both very active students of A Course in Miracles. Oh, here this is. Good. Let me see if I can regain my... So a somewhat sad thing happened this morning in that I prepared some slides to go with this message and also slides to go with this afternoon's workshop. Put some time in on that, 30 good slides, and I sent them to Roger at 9:30 last night, apologizing for the fact that I was getting to them so late, but I finally got it done. And for some reason, he got my email, but there were no slides. They will find good use in other places, I'm sure. So I just want to look at the clock to be sure that I don't run over time here. Okay. And also, Brigid, nice meeting you. It's so nice meeting you. You're a graduate of One Spirit, which was founded by my ex-girlfriend. Pardon? Oh, well, she wanted me to do that with her, but I was already out the door. Anyhow, it doesn't matter. We won't go there any further, okay? We all have our stories, we all have our pasts, right, which is part of what I want to talk about. So the topic for today is living a lucid life. By the way, that's also this afternoon's topic. So really what I'm going to be doing this morning is kind of an introduction to this afternoon. So you've got to come back this afternoon to get the closing. No, that's not true. This will be a message in and of itself. But I hope that some of you can come back this afternoon. So first of all, let's think about what the word lucid means. If you have a lucid dream, what's happening in a lucid dream? It's as though you're awake within the dream, right? You're aware of the fact that you're dreaming. You know that a dream is going. It doesn't mean you can stop the dream or change, but you may have some control in the dream. You may be able to make some choices in the dream simply because you realize it's a lucid dream, all right? You can go through this door rather than that door, that kind of a thing. Let me get a feel. How many of you are students of A Course in Miracles? By raise of hand. How many? Oh, good. So like at least a quarter, maybe a third of the room, raise your hand. How many of you are very active? I mean, you've been doing it for a while. Okay, so again, about half of that number. As you all know, or I've been a student of the Course in Miracles for, would you believe, 49 years. So about the same time that you guys got married, I was beginning to be a student of the Course. And now completely devote my time to it in terms of, I publish a magazine called Miracles. Take a copy on the way out. If you'd like to subscribe, that'd be nice. And my books are out there in the hallway as well. And also have an active online teaching of the Course. And do something called Sunday with Mundy. Every Sunday there's a little email thing I send out. Well, a lot of advertising here. I wasn't expecting that, but that you can also sign up for. So, in the beginning of the Bible, in Genesis, it says that a deep sleep was made to fall upon Adam. Never does it say anything about the Bible about Adam waking up. So you and I, you know who we are. We're Adam and Eve. We're the progenitors. We're the ones that are actually still sleeping. Now you may say to yourself, well, that's not true. I'm perfectly awake. All right. So how come it is that once in a while you'll do some sort of dumb unconscious thing and then I wish I hadn't done that. Conscience will come into your head and that I really wasn't paying attention. I really wasn't clear, right? The story is told about Buddha. The Buddha, as you know, spent 7 years meditating, looking for enlightenment, looking to wake up. And he had gathered around him a number of disciples who were just devoted to him. He hadn't awakened, but he was there because of his devotion, because of his commitment. He was such a dedicated meditator, and he was down actually to eating 1 grain of rice a day. And he comes over, that ends when he goes down to the river to take a drink, and he's so weak he falls in and almost drowns, and he gets up out of the water and says something like, "This is stupid." And he starts eating again. And he gets so worldly that the disciples leave. They leave. Let's go. He became worldly. But he continues to meditate, and then, well, you know, under the Bodhi tree, the famous Bodhi tree, he finally has an awakening. And after his awakening, he goes back to finds his students, the former students, at the Deer Park at Benares, and as they see him coming, they say, "There's something different about you. What is it?" And he says, "I'm awake. I'm awake." He woke up, right? Some of you may know of a philosopher from the early part of the 20th century named G.I. Gurdjieff, whose basic philosophy of life was that we're all sleepwalking. We're sleepwalking through life. And were we really awake and were we really attentive, and if we really knew what we were doing, we would not do some of the silly, insane things that we do, like engage in war. That's a piece of it. That's called a nightmare, of which our world seems to constantly fall from one nightmare into another nightmare. I thought it was so great when we pulled out of Afghanistan in 22, August, and whoa, no major war. February 23, invasion of Ukraine. And now it just seems to get worse, right? The nightmare amplifies and amplifies. So that's for the world. The Course of Miracles says that not only have no time have anyone really awakened, there's one good exception. We call that person Jesus. And it's interesting. Let's just a very quick review of a little bit of Jesus' life. Quick. When he's 12 years old, You know the story about in the temple when he leaves his parents. They've come there for Passover. They're leaving, and they think he's with them, but he's not. And they have to come back to Jerusalem. They spend, I can't believe it says in the Bible, 3 days looking for him. You think that Jerusalem wouldn't have been that big and that time. But anyhow, they find him in the temple, and Mary says to him, "Son, why have you done this to us so?" And he says, his answer is, "Didn't you know I had to be about my Father's business?" There he is talking to the teachers, and it's interesting what they say about Jesus. As one having authority and not as the scribes and the Pharisees. Well, that's interesting because the scribes and the Pharisees are the ones who had authority. So they're listening to us, one having authority. Jump to his baptism by John the Baptist. That's the next event that's listed, that's described in the Bible. In between those two events, we don't know what's going on. Right? And after the baptism by John the Baptist, at the end of that, it says that after that, he was led into the desert for a time of testing, into the wilderness for a time of testing. And there are 3 tests that are put before him by this thing that we call the devil. Now let's be really clear. There was no physical being there called a devil. There was something though. There was temptation. There were 3 temptations. And the temptations are all temptations of sort of things about the world. Right? For example, the last of the 3 temptations is this. The devil takes him to a high mountain, and he says to him, "Look here, you kneel down and worship me." The ego, that's who's there, it's the ego. The Course in Miracles is very clear that we have split minds, we have divided minds. There's 2 ways of thinking. We can go with the ego, which is very selfish and narcissistic, and you know all the traits that are contributed to the ego, right? But in each of these instances, in each of the 3, he has the same response. And the same response is, "Get thee behind me, Satan." He does not give in. He does not give in. It is written, he says, "You shall not tempt the Lord your God." Right, so he's awakening, he accepts the fact that he is the Christ. In terms of A Course in Miracles, you are the Christ. Everyone in this room is the Christ. The only difference between you and me and Jesus is that Jesus was awake to that fact. He actually remembered who he was in truth. And in truth, Jesus says in the Course, "What I have done, you can do." There's no separation, there's no difference between us, except, the word except comes in there, except in time. In time there's a difference. Because he is already awakened, and we are yet in the process of awakening. So I suggest to you that the more awake you are, the happier you're going to be. And the happier you're going to be because you are paying attention, you are making what the Course calls, it calls the decision between the right mind and the wrong mind. You're deciding with the right mind. You're doing the right thing. You're making the right choices. As you make the right choices, well, then life kind of smooths out the way it should be. And if you're making the wrong choices, well, you know, you're getting caught in an addiction maybe of some sort, you're drinking too much, you're eating too much, you're arguing too much, you're not happy. You're not happy because you're not paying attention to, and this is very important in terms of the Course in Miracles, the guidance of the Holy Spirit. So this meditation that I just shared with you a moment ago said, God's voice speaks to me all through the day. That's really true. There's never an instant in any day ever that the voice for God, identified in the Course as the Holy Spirit, is not speaking, is not giving you proper direction. So that means it's up to us. It's up to you, it's up to me to decide which voice will I listen to. Will I listen to this ego voice, which is going to tell me all kinds of really unpleasant things, like you're stupid, you know? You're an idiot, you know? Look at what you did. You don't have any control over yourself. You're essentially, what in psychology we would say, unconscious. You're not being conscious. Not really. If you were really, 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 really awake, you would never do some of the things you've done. You would never have made some of the, you look back and go, why did I do that? Why did I say that? That was a stupid thing to have said. You know, you know that voice in the head? That voice is always talking to you, isn't it? Right, always nagging you, right? Well, the idea is to get rid of the nag by simply paying more and more and more attention to the voice for God, to the Holy Spirit. And the thing about, if you do that, this wonderful thing happens. You feel good. You feel good. You feel happy because you've made the right choice. So right now, I'm teaching a class online called Living a Lucid Life. We've only got 2 more weeks to go. And this last week, we're going over the 10 characteristics of a teacher of God that's in the Manual for Teachers of the Course in Miracles. And last week, we did characteristic number 2, which is honesty. Now, honesty is a good example of the ego and the Holy Spirit back and forth, all right? Did you do your taxes this week? Feel good about it? Told the truth? All the way, 100%? You know, I mean, sometimes, well, they don't need to know about that. You know, that was, we can just leave that out. Right? Who will know? Temptation. Slips. I mean, there's lots of ways. That's just because it was this week that I mentioned it. Right? But that can be there at any time. Right? So when I talk about leading a lucid life, we're talking about being aware life, but it's more than aware. It's an honest life. It's also a balanced life. It's a clear life. That's what lucid means. Lucid means clear. Lucidity means clear. If you were to elucidate on a particular topic, that means you make a clear statement about the topic, so that people easily understand what you're talking about if you elucidate, right? So that's what we're looking to do, but you can do it, but it takes practice. That's why I tell the students of the Course in Miracles, you know, there's the 365 lessons you have to do. When you get it done, I very, very, very highly recommend do it again. And again. And again. Because every time you do, it will become clearer and clearer and clearer, and you will see things you didn't see before. And you say, oh, yeah. The main way that the Course in Miracles works says on the first chapter, second part, after the 50 principles, the section is called Time, Revelation, and Miracles. And so the way the Course works, it says it provides you, God's voice speaks to me all through the day, with revelation. You will have revelatory experiences. And revelatory experiences are clarifying experiences. So, I see, I get it, I understand, right? So if I see, I get it, I understand. So if you really do see it, if you do get it, you understand, then the next paper is, there's another step. The willingness to do it. The willingness to do it. A simple illustration would be something like, let's say exercise, right? Now, we all know, they'll move it or lose it, right? Are you moving it? Do you feel like you're moving it enough? How about simple things like going out your door and going for a walk? Let me say there's just a lot of things we can do to bring some level of improvement into our lives. I'll let you decide for you what that would be. Maybe at a workshop this afternoon we'll do a little exercise that I can show you what we do to provide greater clarity for you to follow the path that you want to follow. The most important thing, and what here is talking about waking up, waking up. So if you've got an addiction going, if you're alcoholic, if you're caught in alcohol, for example, then you're sleeping, you're definitely sleeping. Or any kind of drug addiction, you're definitely sleeping, right? But that can also be overeating. You're just a way to sleeping. You're overdoing anything. You're overdoing. That's why I say a lucid life is a balanced life. It's a centered life, centered, balanced, clear, honest, and there's not a wandering off of the path. Jesus in the gospel says, straight is the way, narrow is the gate that leads into, you know what it leads into? Anybody know what the word is? Life. Straight is the way, narrow is the gate that leads into life. To really being awake. Few there are that go therein. Broad is the way, wide is the path that leads into, anybody know what it leads into? What? No? No? Destruction. Many there are that go therein. Now when I say it leads into destruction, it'll fall apart. A false life will fall apart. A true life will wake you up. It's that simple. So I see by that clock up there that I've been talking for about 20 minutes, which I think is the limit, right? I haven't heard any bells go off, but one more drink. So it's really just that simple. What I'm doing really is just kind of gnawing at conscience. Now let's wake up. Wake up, wake up. Right. And you can wake up gently. If you were going to wake up a child, you wouldn't go in and shake them awake. You go, come on, excuse me. Wake up, come on, wake up, come on. Yeah. Very gently, wake up, but be engaged in that process. And if you're engaged in that process, if you're doing things that help you to wake up, you're going to be feeling better along the way. Physically, you'll be healthier. If we do the honest thing, there's nothing. If you're lying to somebody in any way at all, guess who suffers? Not the person you're lying to. They don't even know you're lying. You suffer. Because there's this thing called, guilt. And guilt is a primary problem in terms of course. Guilt is the real stinker thing. It's a real thing that really pulls us down. So you don't want to do anything that's going to make me feel guilty. Because that, again, you're not going to be happy. You can't be happy and guilty at the same time. In fact, that's almost the exact description of what unhappiness is. It's walking around with a lot of guilt going on inside the mind, right? So we're looking to be free, happy, and there's no reason you can't do it. I will stop because it's 12 o'clock.